Hey there, parents. Welcome back to another session here on Your Teenager is Not Crazy here. Got the book here. I know I say this every time, but I really hope maybe you've got a copy of the book and you're just taking a little time once a week to just read a couple minutes. Each chapter, if you're not aware, is pretty short, less than probably 10 pages, and it has a section that really talks about the brain research that's really come out in the last 10, 20 years from MRI scans and other medical professionals. And then from there it has some things that talk about faith and just give some way to implement and talk about some things. And so this week, though, gosh, chapters 13 and 14. 13, we just started having fun, and this could almost be like, a 12-week session just on chapter 13. Chapter 13 kind of just dips your toe a little bit into the deep end of talking about sex and relationships with your child. And I'm here to start to say that I think the more you talk to your child prior to having this conversation and this topic brought up, I think the better. The more you can build intimacy with your child, I think is going to help with that process and be able to, to know that, hey, we've already talked about other challenging, tough issues. And so that now when we bring up this topic, it's different, but it's not that different from some of the other things we've talked about. This conversation, interestingly enough, I've been teaching fifth grade boys sex ed at our Lutheran school for several years now. And so it's awkward, it's uncomfortable. I don't think there's any way around that aspect. And so I don't want to tell you this, but as a parent, I think you're going to have to grow up a little bit. You're going to have to mature and say, you know what, this is a tough topic, but God's empowered me, and I need to talk about this with my child. The second thing I would encourage you to think about is that this is not a one-time conversation, 20 minutes in the car. I see this as more of an ongoing discussion. There is so much, I think, so many different facets and perspectives and what am I trying to say here? Just different levels and areas of this topic of relationships, dating, marriage, the biology, children, all that kind of stuff. And so I just don't think you can just do it and, hey, we talked one day for 20 minutes about the birds and bees and we just moved on with life. I think you do your child a disservice when you do that. I think it's got to be this ongoing dialogue, which, again, continues to be uncomfortable. But I think what I try to do, especially with the sex ed curriculum that we use, it covers some of the how-to stuff, but I think more importantly, really what I try to get children to think about, youth to think about, is what are the outcomes that they want in their life? And so I start thinking about like vocations, about like their career, and are they going to be a husband or a wife or father, mother, those types of things. And so what do you want? And I think once you clarify maybe what you want, and so, hey, I want to have this wife someday and I want to have 3 kids, or I want to have a house with a dog and live by myself, whatever that is, then you can start to move backwards and start to fill in, okay, how are you going to get to that, to be successful in that moment? And then also, I think with faith is, how do we honor God then in how we do that? And so what kind of choices bring honor and glory to God, knowing that God wants the best for us? And so that's a process that I think I encourage you to take your children through. Something simple you could have your child do that most youth don't do. And I encourage them sometimes when I meet with them one-on-one, when I'm talking about relationships, is that I encourage them, take a piece of paper, write out, what are you looking for in a spouse? What are you hoping to have in a girlfriend or a boyfriend? What kind of hopes and dreams do you have in the future? And I think that really ties into this conversation. But I think that's important to do. And I'm going to wrap up here with chapter 13, but obviously we could talk more about this, and I'll be looking forward to the class that's watching this to see what kind of feedback and maybe how I could better assist and help them with this challenging topic and conversation. Moving on to chapter 14. Gosh, we just came off of Christmas about a month ago here, and materialism. And I just go back to what I've seen like at the pediatrician, right when we had our first child, where it had this like the rules of a toddler was like, what's mine is mine, what yours is mine, what I thought was mine is still mine, what you took is mine, all these things. And it just kind of made me think of that we live in an American society that really pushes the marketing and advertising of stuff, and kind of a mantra that more is better. I like how the book points out just the brain, how the brain reacts to advertisements, to suggestive selling of things, and that just I think the encouragement. I don't know if the book makes this point, but don't underestimate the power of the marketing teams and the way that Coca-Cola, Apple, whatever company you want to take, is trying to sell products to all of us, especially young children. Because if they can get a young child drinking Coca-Cola at 6 years old, they're more likely to start drinking it than, hey, I'm marketing it to this 20-year-old who's never really liked Coke. And so now they're going to start. And that's, and ironically, kind of similar to what we try to do with faith. It's harder to get someone into a relationship with Christ when they're older than it is when they're younger. And so very similar, but I think very different. And different motives and different things. Obviously, there's the selling. And so I encourage people, and we do a confirmation thing that really talk about media. And it more often than not has your pocketbook in mind. Then they're going to try to tell you that they have their value, your values, and really want the best for you. And I'm not saying that a company doesn't, but at the end of the day, it's about making money for these companies and providing for jobs. And so, like I said, I don't think it's all evil, but it's not always just like, well, we just really want the best for these people. Also in there, I really like how it talks about gratitude. And Thanksgiving's a couple months ago, but what do you do to try to instill gratitude? This made me personally think that maybe it would be good this week, just at dinner, when we maybe pray before a meal, to just have them share something that they're thankful for in the last week. I think that would be a good idea. And then maybe you want to do something like that, or just reminding your kids to be grateful. I know Pastor Jeff here at Christ Memorial has talked a lot about maybe having a gratitude journal where you just remind the things that you're thankful for. And when those things are in front, you think about those things more than what you don't have. Also, if you can get your children in a situation where they get to help or serve with people that are less fortunate, I think that is helpful. And I get not everybody can take their children to Mexico for a mission trip, but stuff like that, to getting in other areas where you interact, to not say, wow, look what we have and look what these people don't have, but instead get around people that maybe have that humble spirit that have less. And I did a mission trip after my freshman year of high school that was super powerful for me to see very humble people just not have a quarter of what I have, but seem to be more humble and satisfied with life. And so a great question to ask is, are you satisfied? And at what moment, what's the threshold in which you as an individual, and especially for your child, to teach them that, well, what would it take for you to be satisfied? And a lot of times we have to focus back to look at the things that we're thankful that God has given us, and that's where our satisfaction needs to come from, not the acquiring of more stuff. So a lot of stuff to unpack in these chapters. Just want to pray a blessing upon your group time as you get to discuss and think through these things, and as you work them out at home. And so thanks for watching. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.